So you're telling me you wear this unsightly piece of fabric as a uniform for women? Ryan's eyes twitched in disgust as she pulled the skirt down behind her with utmost discomfort. They were making their way to the campus hallway with the principal. The place was already empty as it was the current school hours. Nezu smiled. But Ackerman, this is the provided uniform for everyone else in any school around Japan. Don't worry, it suits you. He explained. How vulgar! It would have been reasonable if not in front of many men, she grumbled, finally irritated with the continuous raising of her skirt, as she removed her grey blazer and wore it around her waist. The fabric at least added to hide more skin from her back. She's seen nudity before her very eyes. Credits to having indecent titans breach Wall Maria. And yes, she's bathed with others before and got naked on the bathroom, but never has she went out wearing anything this shameful around majority of people. She can't also argue that her titan form is barely clothed as well, but difference is that was not even her body to begin with, and it also lacks the reproductive parts that women should be wary of showing. I would usually be strict when it comes to uniforms, but for now, I will let it slide until you're used to it, the small principal says. The girl simply sighed, stealing glances to the white creature in formal suit, still as shook when she first saw him, screaming, "A fucking talking right giant rat!" at the top of her lungs before she tried to jump off the hospital building 4 floors above. It took 5 doctors to stop her from attempting suicide. All of them are injured, broken ribs and dislocated joints. Reaching the large door labelled 1A on it, the adorable principal opened the door and stepped in. Behind him, the girl that fell from the ceiling of their class. Aizawa stopped from reading his notes and turned to the small creature, then to the girl who stood strictly straight behind him. "I believe that is not the proper way to wear your uniform, student," he started. She huffed. "I do not wish to disrespect the uniform, sir, but I find it more unpresentable to expose my legs to the public eye," she informed, flatly and clearly. Her stern voice made his brows twitch. "You're in school and you must follow the regulation," he replied. "I've memorized the faculty's rules, and it does not imply that I cannot use my uniform as a shield to hide more decent fabrics below me. It only states that I must wear the uniform and does not implement that I should wear it from where it's supposed to be worn." Her argument left the class gawking. Who could possibly say that with school uniforms? But she's somehow right. Some students don't wear their uniform the way they are supposed to be worn, and just wear it the way they want to. Nezu chuckled, and Aizawa massaged the bridge of his nose with a tired grumble. "This kid," he muttered. Now, Aizawa. Ackerman is just uncomfortable with the new uniform. I permitted her, so let it slide for a while," the principal says. "Well, I just came here to lead your student. I'm going back to my office," he says in finality before leaving. "Fine. We'll be having a new student today, as you all know. This girl is the one who appeared on our ceiling a week ago," he tiredly explained. "Introduce yourself, kid." The girl walked towards the centre, picking up a chalk, and wrote her name in a foreign way. Stood on the centre of the podium, hands on her back as she stood straight and firm, which gave her some kind of aura that can intimidate the whole room. Her face serious but relaxed. "I'm Ryan Ackerman," she said clearly. "Any questions?" she continued. That was how Nezu told her to do for introductions, since she can't really explain anything about herself if no one's really interested. A boy with glasses raised one hand with a stern gesture that was the same as hers and at the same time not. She nodded and gave him permission to speak. "Ackerman, I am Bnha Ida. Nice to meet you, and why do you see our school uniform as indecent?" Her straight lips opened after the question. Where I'm from, I never wore such short, indescribable fabrics you all call skirts. Not only does it make me feel uncomfortable, but it lowers my maneuverability to move, and worries that male will see what's underneath. She sighed, seeing few of the males blush. But to answer indecently is because it is not proper in my custom way of life. Thank you for answering me, Ida replied, trying to hide away his embarrassment with a stern reply. Another hand was raised, the pinky who teased her at first meeting. She signalled her to go ahead as well. Ackerman-chan, I'm Bnha Ashido. So what's your quirk? She asked. Pardon me for asking, but what is that? I asked back. Oh, something like a superpower. Hiding her shock, she answered. I nodded. Thank you. Well, I was told that I heal quickly. I believe that it is my quirk, she explained. Another hand was raised, a redhead. I'm Echiro Kirishima. You're so manly, by the way. But what happened to you when you appeared here 2 days ago? He asked. She held her right wrist together behind her as she remembered that day, but still gave her straight face. I was fighting someone, got stabbed, got myself wounded severely and jumped into the river. The details of who and why are classified, and how I came here is also out of my knowledge, she answered. Just when she thought it was over, a ponytailed female raised her hand. She eyed her. My name is Momo Yayorozu. If I may ask, your written language are very much foreign. But how are you able to speak our language? She asked. Honestly speaking, it's also a complete puzzle for me. How we spoke the same language but different in writing characters, it's also out of my knowledge, she said apologetically. The raven nodded and smiled. Thank you. And once again another hand was raised, a blonde with black lightning mark on his hair. I'm Denki Kaminari. I'm kinda curious, why do you look so intimidating right now? He asked. The girl eyed Aizawa questioningly. Should I keep going? She asked. He's the last one, the advisor replied with a sigh. She faced the class back and forced a little smile. I usually don't look this stern, so forgive me if I give an ominous feeling. I grew up with my brother, who is a stern, intimidating and rude soldier, so I sadly adopted most of my traits from him, she says, her feet apart on shoulder width, placing her right fist on her left chest abruptly, like a statue. I'm pleased to make your acquaintance. Again, everyone stared at the unusual greeting. Aizawa, for the 9th time, gave the tired sigh. Okay, now make yourself comfortable at your seat so we can continue class, he said, dismissively, pointing his chalk towards the empty chair behind the bicoloured meal. Got it, she replied, walking straight into the alley where pairs of eyes watched her make her way to her seat. Pushing the chair and weighing herself, she crossed her feet and observed the current lesson. Few more hours passed and lunch break arrived. Everyone was now relaxed while the former soldier watched the teacher leave. Ackerman, a sweet voice called. She turned and saw 3 figures making their way to her, one female with brown hair and bright smile. Quite the reminder of Petra because of her hair. Behind her 2 male followed. One was the Specs who asked her the first question. The other was a mess of dark green hair with freckles the closer he came. Same beam and gentle energy emitting like Marco's. She shook her head from the thought. What can I do for you? YN asked. Oh, I'm Oshako Uraraka. This is Izuku Midoriya, and you know him already, but he's Tenya Ida. We actually want to welcome you. Nodding, she smiled calmly. Something that she didn't really do earlier. making the three blush from how pretty it was. That is really sweet of you. Would you be darlings and tell me the way to the dining hall? She asked. The three looked at each other once again. We'd like to invite you to dine with us, Ida explained. Oh, that works as well, sure. She fixed her things before standing up and joining them. They actually serve meat here? That's interesting. The girl looked at the menu at lunch rush, while choosing her meal. Were you a vegetarian? Uraka asked, who was in line in front of her. She shook her head. Meat is rare where I come from. It's quite a luxury, she explained. Eh? Why? The greenhead asked, surprised. Well, we are a secluded area, built inside walls, so we don't have much spare lands to grow animals, she explained. Walls? Why walls? It's kind of a barrier from outside harms, I guess. She shrugged. Lots of our people are kind of cowards. Look, we're next, Ochako excitedly announced as she picked out some food. The girl beside her looked confused with the names she's mentioning. What would you like, girl? Lunch Rush asked. Wyan blinked twice. Oh, yes, one full of protein. Mentioning that, the man looked as confused as the people around her. She shrugged. Any recommendation? She asked instead. All right. Freshly cooked rice, katsudon, a bowl of salad, and miso soup. Hope it's to your liking, he grinned. Thanks, she followed, ahead with Uraka, who was looking for free space until she saw their other classmates who was waving at them. Wyan took the free chair beside Todoroki, since she remembered that he was the one sitting in front of her. At least it feels like she's acquainted with him than the others. While the brunette took the opposite front, Midoriya beside her and Ida beside him. Filling all chairs from the long table, they designated themselves. Yay! Ackerman-chan is eating with us! Mina exclaimed happily, raising her chopsticks. I beg your pardon? But may I ask why you add Chan on my last name? She asked, scooping a spoonful of rice with the meat. It's honorific. We use them a lot to endearing people, she explained. She nodded. You may call me YN. I've never been called my last name before, she said. She finally ate the food on her spoon. How was it, YN? Midoriya asked, noticing the frown forming to her head. The girl blinked twice. Ah yes, the flavour is odd, but it's delicious, she explained. Whoa, it's actually your first time eating katsudon? Denki asked, who was opposite side to Uraka beside Mina. Yes, truth be told, I don't even know what all of you are eating, she chuckled. I'm not even considered poor in my place. So what do you guys eat if not these? Rations of wheat, bread, and vegetable stew. We occasionally roast meat. When on duty, we eat tasteless hard bread, I guess. On duty? You actually have a part-time job? The bi-coloured male now curiously asked her. He was now stopped slurping from his cold soba. Part-time job? What's that? She asked. Wait, you mean you're already working? You're so young to be working, Denki said in confusion. Actually, I'm kind of too old to be studying again, she replied, eating another spoonful of her food. Again? The group watched her in confusion. Did you finish school? The young brunette asked, wide innocent eyes staring at her with wonder. Yeah, I've done military training when I was 12. Most of us actually apply for training regimen below 15 years. I recently graduated from being a cadet 6 months ago. She seriously but comically raised one arm up like how All Might does. I'm in perfect shape and raring for action. The table was left to stare at her wide-eyed. The different looks, mixed with pity, shock, disbelief, and sadness, grew within the group. For some reason, the explanation why she had her wounds made sense now.